Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Cowboys Takeover. We are discussing pregame against the Washington Commanders on Turkey Day. What a great, this is such one of my, this is probably my favorite holiday. We bring in, you get to sit down, usually only eat dinner, most families 5:30. We get to eat dinner at 2 o'clock and watch football all day. How exciting is that? I think I'm overblowing it a little bit, but I truly love this holiday because not only do we get to sit down, it really feels like a national football day. Your high school teams play this day. Dallas usually switches between that noon and that 4:30 game. And this week, coming up, the Washington Commanders, a team that lost to Tommy DeVito. Tommy DeVito threw over 200 yards against this team. So I think Mr. Aaron James and my expectations are pretty high coming in this week. So let's bring in my co-host, the illustrious, the illuminous, Mr. Aaron James. Aaron, how are you doing this week, sir?
I'm doing good, Jason. I'm pumped. We have to, so Thanksgiving football, in the East Coast, you get to wake up, you get to go play your flag football game in the morning, right? Get that game out of the way. You still have time to come back, ice up, shower.
Ice up, son.
Oh, man. Not last year, but the Thanksgiving before. I was out there. I was 35 years old at the time, playing flag football. Like there were D1 coaches watching me, and I was going to go.
Invested.
Man, I was my legs were on fire at the dinner table. But
yeah, we forget we're not 22 anymore when we do that.
Yeah. So Thanksgiving we experienced Christmas Eve football last year.
Yeah. And
this time we have. So we can compare it a little bit. National stage, primetime game. Cowboys always play.
Before we go into the game, though, I do have a question. What's your favorite side? What is your number one? When you go, you get that turkey. Everybody loves the turkey. Throw a little bit of gravy on that turkey. The turkey's a staple. Number one side. What's your number one side for that dish?
It's not a difficult decision for me. And I know you can have it any other time, but the mashed potatoes.
That's a solid one. Okay. We're going gravy on the potatoes, right, though? We're going gravy?
Yes.
See, I've been debating about this all week, and I was like, man, this is a good question. Favorite side? I like the mac and cheese. I think mac and cheese, it may not be a traditional number, that's there, but, we're going to scratch the mac and cheese. We're going to put that stuffing because the stuffing just puts it together. Because the stuffing is something when you take a bite of that turkey, you grab some stuffing. You take a bite of those, the mashed potatoes, you grab some stuffing.
Okay.
You take a bite of those, of your mac and cheese, you put some stuff. The stuffing just plays in every bite of that meal. I'm not I think it's the cranberry. I'm not a cranberry guy. But you could get your cranberry, get some stuffing. I think the stuffing plays. Good stuffing. Plays all week. But I do think 1 and 2 are potatoes and stuffing on that meal.
Yes. Now I also go with some ham.
You're a ham guy.
I'm a ham guy. We have some ham at my place.
Now, do you have the turkey as well? Or do you guys go strictly? Oh, so you double up on the meats.
Yeah. Yes.
That's so good for that. You know where that plays? That's good for the leftovers. Because the leftovers now I have turkey. I also have some ham. And everybody makes way too much mashed potatoes, way too much stuffing, way too much mac and cheese. That's like dinner and lunch for another week and a half, 2 weeks, especially if you do the extra ham.
Yeah. And then as far as dessert, it's the only time of year where I'm going to have some pumpkin pie. So to me, that's the staple dessert. Thanksgiving, have a piece of pumpkin pie.
Oh, 100% agree. And it's usually, you said a piece. It's like 2 or 3 for me. That's
okay.
That's why I'm a little bit, you see some of this. That's because you eat some of it, you fill that plate up and then you get a few more of those pumpkin pies. But I digress. But I agree with you. That pumpkin pie plays. That's pretty much the only time I think a year most people get it. Even with Halloween, where you sell so many pumpkins, nobody's making pumpkin pies. Thanksgiving plays. This is my favorite meal of the year. Number one, hands down, best meal of the year. And I digress.
And you know what you're getting. It's not complicated. You can make it multiple times if you wanted to.
Just something different hits. When you're sitting down watching that football game, around the table, and you got the whole, because most times I'm not doing turkey, stuffing, green beans, this, that, the third. Mo, you're not doing that for everyday dinner, but that last Thursday in November, or is it second last? I know it's one of those two. You're having that meal, and it just slaps everything. Because like you said, you wake up, you play some football, you have the turkey on while you're watching football.
Yeah.
You sit down, eat the turkey while you're watching the football, and they even added that 8:00 game. So there's just football all day on Thanksgiving. It's a beautiful, and then you have the Macy's Day Parade. I think that's Macy's, right?
Yeah.
There's that. Right. They have that. So it's a great day.
Great day.
It's just a great day.
Relax. More often than not, it's like sunny out. You can go out and have some time outside.
Yep.
So last question, and we'll wrap this up here on the meal. But is there anything you do to best prepare yourself for that max intake? Do you skip on dinner the night before?
I tend to eat small things. Like I'll eat a pack of crackers early in the day to kind of hold me, because I don't want to be too hungry, because I feel like if I'm too hungry, I can't eat as much.
Okay.
And that sounds like a fat thing to say, but I enjoy that dinner. So I try to, like you said, maybe some crackers, maybe some water to not fill me up, but not make me where I'm starving and just chow down. And I just go, I go hard. There are a lot of times I'll try not to. I don't want to, like when I eat pasta, I tend to eat it slowly. At Thanksgiving dinner, I'm making sure I house down that first plate so I can get my second plate. That's what I do. That's the Jason Kent routine.
See, I'm in it for the long haul. Okay, I want to be eating for like 90 minutes. So I'm fine with having a small to medium sized plate to start off. Take a little break, do some things, watch some game, and then 15-20 minutes later, then go for my second plate.
I want to be comatose by the time that 4:30 game's over. That's my plan, because I don't do the Black Friday thing. So my plan is just to be comatose and out in that, whatever the tryptophan, that's much above my pay grade, but I want as much of that in me. So I'm passing out by like 9:30 that night. But, looking this week, this Thanksgiving, this Turkey Day, we do have the Washington Commanders. So as I stayed in the open, man, it's tough. You saw last week what Dallas did to the Giants and really dominated them. So I've really expected some of the same, because I think Washington is a pretty solid team. At least they're better than the Giants. And you come in this week, I think Sam Howell going into the week was leading the NFL in passing yards. So they're a team, they're throwing a lot, they're doing well. Really, after what you saw Dallas do to Giants last week, you thought you'd see the same, and they kind of laid a stinker up. I felt like they haven't done well. They didn't do well that game. And then when you just look at them overall, I feel like they've been in games. They've looked good. They started the season 2-0, beating the Cardinals, and then a close game against the Broncos. But then they play the Bills and the Eagles. Eagles, they played very tough. So they get blown out by the Bills. They played the Eagles tough, and then you expect them to they have an easy part of the schedule coming up, right? They got the Bears, the Falcons, the Giants, and they only go 2-1 in there. So you're like, man, the team that won the first two games of the season, they're not really doing well, and their one win was against the Falcons. They did lose to the Bears and the Giants. Then they come in and get another close game against the Eagles, beat the Patriots, and then lose the last 2 weeks, close game to the Seahawks, and really felt like today they got dominated by the Giants. But I feel like it's been an up-down season. I don't think it's went the way I thought it would go for them, given I feel like they have a decent amount of talent on offense. Did you expect them to look better, have a better record coming in to this this matchup in week 11 or week 12 matchup with them.
Yes, I did expect them to have a better record. To be fair, 4 of their losses are by 1 possession. Again, they took the Eagles to their limit twice. Surprising, probably most disappointing loss of the season against the Chicago Bears following that Eagles game. So now they have the tough Eagles match, and then Thursday night they play Chicago, lose by 20, and Sam Howell throws up 388 yards in that game. Bieniemy was all the talk in the offseason that he was going to be, the next offensive coordinator, set himself up coming off of 2 Super Bowl wins during his tenure at Kansas City with Big Red, Andy Reid. So, he's coming in, and I would say he's done a really good job. There was a lot of chatter in the offseason that his accountability methods was a little bit too strong, and the players weren't really taking too well to it. Juan Rivera was kind of like, hey, like, he kind of played it off as hey, we set everyone to play, at the highest level possible, what have you. But anyways, his coaching style seemed to rub off the players a little bit much. And coming into the preseason, I said this was our trap game. I hate to say Thanksgiving games historically, we'd have to go back and look, but I just remember having more sour taste in my mouth at the end of dinner than, because we had the Raiders. I think we ended up beating the Raiders, right? Or did we lose to them? I forget. I'm trying to think of other previous games, but anyways, I told myself coming into this week, I would look for ways to back out of that take of mine. And here it is. Commanders lose to New York Giants twice, and they're just coming off a loss this past Sunday, 31-19. So for that reason, that they couldn't handle business against the Giants twice, that gives me the confidence I need. And we're playing strong at home too, don't get me wrong.
I was going to ask you,
we should be able to handle business.
Because to me, my worry was they lost a game they shouldn't have lost, at least in my opinion. I don't think this New York team is anything special. I felt like this is a game they should have handled. Are you worried at all? Because it does feel like the Washington Commanders, the way they looked this last week, and the way Dallas has been playing, I didn't really have this as my trap game. I didn't, but it looks, looking at it, it is set up for that. It is set up for Washington to come out and have themselves a day, and Dallas to really crap the bed. It does feel like that. Just if you're looking at what a trap game is, this is, to me, this is the definition. Dallas is playing great ball coming into it. Washington, outside of their first, they've been very up and down. Some close games, like you said, they've lost by less than a score, but they've really been in it. And it just feels like this week, you don't want, especially, good thing is both teams short week, so it's not something you're worried about. But you don't want Dallas to come in too confident. Like you said, they're playing great at home. Haven't been beaten there in a while. Washington doesn't look like a team that can do well. So you kind of hope. But when you look at Washington, I think there's, the good thing is for them, if I'm a Commanders fan, I think, like you said, they've lost a lot of games by less than a touchdown or one-score game. And I think they have some very good players. So when you look at Washington, I think the first thing you think of is they have, you have Scary Terry, who's a very good receiver. Logan Thomas is really turning in. And like I stated early, Sam Howell is leading the league in passing yards going into this week. So regardless if they're losing whatnot, you see a guy like Tommy DeVito, like I know he threw for 200 yards this week, but just couldn't get things done. So you see a lot of these quarterbacks, Zach Wilson can't do anything. So it's nice to see Sam Howell being able to throw the ball to, Terry McLaurin. They have that running back in Brian Johnson Jr., Logan Thomas, Johan Dodson. So that, Curtis Samuel, who may be not being used to his full potential, but he's got some speed. They have some talent on all, that's just on offense. You could go on the names on defense. So they do have some talent. When you look at them, is there anybody that really jumps off the page at you?
Now Sam Howell's been doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
Brian Robinson Jr., he's averaging 4 yards a carry. He's at 485 total yards right now. So is he going to make 1,000 yards for the season? I mean, he has some making up to do a little bit. But he's still, he's a dual threat. I have seen him run
time
after the, with the receiving as well. So, but I think we match up well there with the speed of our linebackers. So I'm fine there. And then, with Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson is the number 2. Dotson at 360 yards so far. Scary Terry. I've never heard that term for him, but
you've never heard Scary Terry? It could be a Madden thing. I've heard him. It's like I have him in Madden.
Okay.
See Scary Terry. I'm sure it's a nickname because usually they go off the real life, but I've heard Scary Terry a few times. It's not bad. He's a stud. He is a stud.
He is. So I think, this is all about scheme. I think, Bieniemy, this is his opportunity once again, first showcasing against the Cowboys on a national stage. He's pretty creative, I got to say. From what I've seen, I've been impressed. I think he does deserve a head coaching opportunity. And, it's going to take every bit of Dan Quinn to come out and, show that we can dominate. I think looking at Sam Howell's performances, I mean he put up, just I guess to compare, he put up 290 yards against the Eagles first game and 397 against the Eagles the second game. So I would say I want to see our defense keep him ideally under 275, but what would you say?
I was going to say 250.
Would you?
I don't want to see him throwing that much.
Well, I mean, obviously, but would you go over or under 250 in what he actually does?
I think under. I think he's held under 250. And then when you look at the team too, I think their strongest suit for this team is their defensive line. It definitely took a hit with the law. They traded away their 2 sack leaders in Montez Sweat and Chase Young. But they still have Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne, who are both, some of the, probably, they're both starting on other teams, and they could both start, I feel like, on almost any championship team in the NFL as defensive tackle. So it's a positive there that for Dallas, they're missing out. They don't have to face Chase Young or Montez Sweat, who are, 6.5 and 5 sacks perspective, both of them. So they're very good players. So I think that helps. And they don't really have much of a secondary. Cameron Curl at safety is really good. But I think it's a product too of, he gets a lot of tackles because they're just a bad team as well. They have some stars at some spots, but they're not a complete team yet.
Right. And Cameron Curl, he leads the team with 81 tackles. And as we've said before, when a safety is leading your team in tackles, that's typically a problem, right? It should be at least your one of your linebackers typically leading the team with tackles, and their DB top quarterback Kendall Fuller, only 2 interceptions so far this year. So,
he's not what he was early. He's good, but he's not what I don't think he was what he was. He's not what he was early in his career. This guy.
So will we be able to run against their big boys up front? I'm not sure. We're probably going to have to run toward, do zone runs to the outside, but it kind of falls into our hands, right? Our passing game, and we're working out the defensive backs, spreading them out, and letting our fast wideouts do their thing.
I couldn't have said that better myself, because it really does.
Yeah.
I think it plays perfectly to what we do, our strong suit. Now would think if they still had Sweat and Chase Young, which they don't, so it's a positive, really plays into what we do. We're going to make them have to make plays, which I don't think they can. I just think I don't think they have enough talent overall. They do, like we said, they have a lot of really, not a lot. They have a few really good players that could start on almost every team, that would start on almost every team in the NFL, in McLaurin, Payne, and I forget the other defensive tackle's name now. But Allen, there we go. But it's one of those things where, I think Sam Howell's stats are because they're losing, but they're a team that, like we saw against the Eagles with them, they can keep it close. And I think that's what worries me is when we look at this, do you have any worries about it being a division rivalry week? It's I know, like we said, we made the comment, we do broadcast from the Philadelphia area, but Dallas's true rivalry has always been it's Dallas and Commanders and Eagles Giants. So I think this one, is a bigger game, and they know each other. They see each other every year, twice a year. So they're very familiar. And like you said, to me, I'm worried. That's where it worries me a little bit. And when I look at where you stated this being a trap game, really because of that rivalry, because they're going to be amped up. This is one they want to win, and how poorly they played last week. I think that puts a little bit more pressure on Dallas, being all of that combined, to come out and have a good game, so I'm a little worried with it being that, you always kind of go 1-1 against them. You always feel, I was projected that way. And those division games are always a little bit harder.
Yeah. You look at the division game that we ended the season with against the Commanders last year. We went in there and they dominated that game from start to finish, where we had an outside chance of getting a better seed in the playoffs. So that alone worries me. Any division game you have to take serious. You can't overlook, because with division games, it doesn't matter what the records are for each team. And so you got to be prepared. That's why in the preseason, I had this as a trap game. And now I'm trying to replace, just because of what took place against the Cardinals earlier in the season. I think we learned from that in a big way. If that game against the Cardinals doesn't happen, I'm probably a little bit more fearful of this game bouncing the wrong way. I mean, you got Juan Rivera. I think I do see Juan as maybe. I probably go back and forth. I could probably be convinced into a tier 1 type of defensive coach, not overall head coach, but just a defensive mind, right? He's made it to the Super Bowl as a head coach once with Cam Newton, if I recall correctly. Yeah. So, you can't really sleep on that. But does he have, does he have the tools needed? I mean, I'm looking at their defense. They probably allow, on average, just eyeballing it here, 30 plus points a game. Denver scored 35 on them, Buffalo 37, Eagles over 30 points twice. I mean, we should be able to move the ball again at home. I see us scoring 30 plus points on these guys.
And when you look at their team, they're definitely one of the worst teams on defense. That they're 28th, 29th. I don't know, 32, 31, 30, 29. There we go. 29th in yards allowed at 372. So that's going into this week. They just don't. They give up a lot of. They have a really bad defense. Offensively, they're ranked somewhere in the middle of the pack. But I think that's passing. So they do. They're a team that's going to throw for yards.
Mm-hmm.
They're a team 204. They average 245 passing yards a game. That'd be incredible if it's rushing. And they're really towards the bottom in rushing. So it's one of those things. What Dallas does well, offensively or defensively, Washington does well. But I just think the talent there on Dallas' side is so much greater. I just don't, I'm a little worried, but if you look at it, we shouldn't lose this game.
No. And I don't think the spread is out yet, but I gotta say we'd have to be at an 8+
I'm
spread.
agreeing with you. I agree with you.
Which is probably too conservative because again, you get the 3 points for being home, and we've been so dominant. It's probably going to be closer to 11 or 12.
You're always worried about that. I could see it anywhere from 8 to 12. I think that's, it's, I wouldn't be shocked if it's greater. They may give, because it's a rivalry game, short week, you may think it may be a little bit smaller of a spread. But looking at that, even with an 8 to 12 point game, I think it's definitely going to be more than a touchdown. What are your expectations going into this week? What do your thoughts? How do you see it playing out offensively, defensively?
Yeah, I see it actually somewhat similar to what we just saw with the Panthers. It's not a sexy win, but it's productive, it's efficient, limited to no mistakes. Again, I want to see penalties always continue to come down, but Dak probably throws for 250 yards. Again, he takes care of the ball. Like the numbers with the Panthers, right? Total, I think of around 300 yards or so, if I recall correctly. I should remember, but nonetheless, I see a very similar game from a stat perspective to the Panthers.
I'm going to go ahead and agree with you. And I think the biggest thing when, the last 2 weeks, when you're looking at that Dallas defense, how many, this week they had 7. I think they had 5 the week before on DeVito. The last 2 weeks, they've made quarterbacks run for their life, which is expected. And you look at it, the one thing negative, yes, he does lead the league in passing. He also leads the league in sacks by quite a bit. He's been sacked, when you look at it, 47 times. Now, this is going into this week 11. Yeah. Sacked 47 times, and then the next closest is 33. And I believe he was sacked another 4 times today. Against the Giants team who really probably, doesn't have the talent you would expect to be able to sack him. But, the Giants are getting home against him. So to me, I think it really plays out well. I expect another dominant game from our defense. I expect a dominant game all around, but I want to see this trend continue where we're really getting after quarterbacks. Mike had a fantastic game last week. I know we've been harping on one of those games. Even though he had 7 sacks going into it, which, is close to the league lead, he hasn't had one of those explosive games, and we saw it last week. And I really expect him to build off of that. I don't know if he'll have another 2.5 sack game, but I expect him to have at least a sack and a half. And I really do think this defense is going to have another week of a quarterback running for their life where they're going to get 15 to 20 pressures and, another 4 to 6 sacks. I think that's where it's going to play. I think, I think offensively we're just much better than them defensively. So I think this game is really going to see what you do defense. If they're getting to Sam Howell like everyone else has, I think it's going to be a long day for Washington. If he can use that maneuverability and kind of escape and we don't get home, I think then I'll be worried. But I expect this defense to have at least 2 takeaways and 4 to 6 sacks.
Yeah. I mean, again, a lot of my confidence comes from the fact that the New York Giants beat them twice.
Yeah, that's a good. That'll give me confidence. That gives anybody confidence.
We just have to go look at that tape. We can replicate anything the Giants defense does because we're just way more talented than the Giants on every level, especially on defense. So Quinn's going to be able to go take a look at that and jot down some notes. And I really think it's going to be almost that simple to come out with a W, dominate on each end. I'm going to go ahead and, I guess, make my bold statement and say that Parsons does get his 2.5 sacks for this game.
Well, the other thing too, and that is a bold statement. If he has another 2.5 sacks, I think, we mentioned last week Bland being defensive player of the year. If he gets another 2.5 sacks this week, that puts him right in there with the league lead, and really gets momentum going for him, which is a good thing because that means, I think Bland's interceptions too. I think a lot of that we've stated before, whoever it was, I thought we felt good because of how great this defensive line is. And I'm okay, even if he doesn't, because I think Micah, the pressure he gives opens up everyone else. Like we said, there were 7 guys on this defense had a sack or a half a sack, at least had some sort of a sack last week, 7 different players. So it just shows the depth that this team has. So I wouldn't be shocked with how much this kid gets sacked if we did. I really wouldn't. But I think it's a big positive. What do you expect offensively on the offensive side of the ball?
On the offense, again, very similar to what we just experienced. Dak's probably going to step back, 33 to 35 times. Would like to see him have 3 touchdowns, but I think it's more likely he ends up with 2. I want to see more production in the red zone. I do think we'll have some success with whether it be wide receiver screens or pitch outs to Dowdle, to Pollard. But again, so long as we don't shoot ourselves in the foot with short drives, or make any mistakes in putting the ball on the ground, giving them points, I suspect a pretty smooth performance in control for the entire game, and probably this time around, I want the ball first. I want the ball first to start the game.
Especially with the way we started last week. You'd like to see him come out and just punch the Commanders in the face. My bold prediction comes on the offensive side. I think Tony Pollard has his second 100-yard game of the season, and I think he runs for $120 this week. Nice. I was the funny thing I was watching, and I looked at the stats. I was paying attention to that Washington game early on, and there was a point I think Barkley had. There's like 5 carries for like -4 yards. And you're like, oh my gosh. And the dude ended up finishing, the game with averaging 5.9 yards a carry. I think he had 14 carries for 83 yards. And then, but it was after like 4 or 5 carries, he had negative yards. So they were really able to explode and come up, for him. So I really think Pollard has a big day. Because like you said, the strength of that defense is their defensive tackles. I think with the way, Pollard, your best, get him in space. That's why I think you're going to see a lot of outside runs with him. This would be a game I'm okay if he gets, I just said last week I want him to get 12 carries a game, no more. I'm okay. I think this week he has a big week. I really do believe it. I think he levels up. And I really expect another game from Dak, a positive game. I think he'll probably throw an interception this week, but I think he's going to take what they give him. If, to me, what Carolina did against Dallas was super smart. I think a lot of teams are going to go towards that, the 2 deep safety and not let Dallas make those plays, because when this offense is hot, we've seen how they roll. And yes, they blew out Carolina, and Dak, but Dak didn't. It wasn't the explosiveness that we were typical to see. So I do expect Dak to not have the gaudy numbers he's had the last, outside of the, before the Carolina game. I expect it to probably be around 200 yards, something, 6 yards per attempt. But I don't think he'll make those big mistakes that'll cost us that I was always so worried about. And I do see Pollard having a big game this week.
So the turnover ratio for the Commanders is -8. And they gave it away, I think, 5 or 6 times against the Giants this past weekend. So um, again, it just all plays into the hands of the Cowboys and our strengths and what we've been able to do so far this season. Again, you just have to overcome the emotion of the game, Thanksgiving, national stage. They don't necessarily have the Commanders have their back against the wall. They just want to come out and ball. They're just going to come out and give it everything they have, and so long as we respond the right way, we'll continue to see this winning streak at home kind of continue on after this week. One thing I was meant to mention before when it comes to just the whole thing with the Commanders, they're under new ownership. Sports radio here in Philadelphia was talking about Bill Belichick parting ways with Robert Kraft after this season, and the Commanders being on a short list because with new ownership, they didn't pick the current coaching staff, and they typically want to go out and make a statement and acquire a coach themselves. What would it mean for the division if somehow, some way, the Commanders were able to steal Bill Belichick for next season?
So I think nothing. My thought with this, you can't say anyone to talk to. I always thought Brady made Belichick. Mm-hmm. When you look at Brady before, or if you look at that team before Brady got there, him and his staff was close to being fired. They had told the coordinators, hey, listen, we may be out of a job. They didn't look good until Brady came in. Now, yes, I get it's a combination. I always thought Brady carried it. And you've seen what happened without talent. Yes, he's a great defensive coordinator. He showed that when, coming up. That's when he was with Parcells. He showed to be a great guy. But he's just not. I don't think he's that. He's going to need talent, and there's not enough talent in that team. They're the fourth best team in that division. So I don't think Belichick really makes a difference for them.
I agree with you. I think he's not a point A in his career, and he hasn't proven with his current team that he can effectively rebuild. Recruiting just doesn't seem to be his strong suit.
No.
Just from what we've observed, and even with that being said, I wouldn't want him to come in and coach our team.
I just think the age is tough to bring in a coach that old, and he's not. I don't think he accepts a role anything less than head coach GM. So it's tough to give him when he's shown not to really replace. Mm-hmm. They had Brady. I get the team was on the decline. Had him great for so many years, but I do think Brady had a big part in that. Even the years he was injured, even though they had a winning record, I think it was overall the team and Brady. I just wouldn't. It's tough because you're not. If I'm in rebuilding mode, chances of Belichick seeing that rebuild are slim. Let's just call it what it. He's in very old. I'm not going to restart it with a 70-year-old coach. As terrible as it sounds, I think it's very accurate.
And he is, 16 games away from passing Don Shula. Does he get there?
I think he does. Oh, yeah. Even if he leaves this team, I think he goes to one of those where we discussed the San Diego, a team that may be on the cusp, but just can't get there. I think, or, a playoff team that maybe, hey, I'm not saying I wouldn't want him as Dallas's coach. I think, he could come in. I think if you have Dak, he can't come in and change the system. He's going to go to a team that's going to be a capable team. So I do think he does get that record because I do think he'll go to a very good team or a team that may be just a little bit away to get it. You're too close not to go after it. I'm okay with him chasing it. That's a big record. That's very good.
I mean, I think let's just say he stays with the Patriots and let's say they give him 3 more years.
I think he gets it. I think there's no doubt to me he gets that record.
Okay. I mean, I don't know.
Unless he wants to walk away, but I just don't see him as a guy being that close that wants to walk away. He's got almost everything else. He has every record pretty much as a head coach.
Yeah.
Just go get it. Just go get it at this point. That's my thought. Like, I feel bad, but you got to. You're too good. You've done it for too long. And yes, I just made the statement that it was Brady. I truly believe that Brady made him. Yeah. But you're that close. You have all those Super Bowl rings. You have the Super Bowl rings as a defensive coordinator. You've proven yourself, and he's going to go down as the greatest head coach of all time. Go get the damn wins, bro. Go get them.
So back to the Commanders. Who is the top quarterback? The first quarterback that comes to mind for the Commanders when you think of the team?
It's terrible. I think it's terrible to say, but in my timeline, it's got to be RG3. Just in my era, because I don't like they haven't really been good. I know, they've had some here and there, but it's got to be him. If they could have kept him healthy, I think the career he had would have been much different. He came in as a rookie and dominated so well, and just looked very good. He looked the part. If he didn't blow out his knee, I think his career is much different.
I mean, they let Kirk Cousins walk out the front door.
Yeah, but he's not, like, we all know. Like, I get it, and they did draft him in that same class, but it's Kirk Cousins. I'm okay with it. Yes, he did take him, and you like that. Everyone liked it. Everybody loved it. They had T-shirts, but to me, he's not. If RG3 doesn't blow out his knee, nobody knows who Kirk Cousins is. And I know all it takes is that one opportunity, and he's done himself a great career, made himself a boatload of money doing it. But if it's not for RG3 getting hurt, Kirk doesn't see that field.
For me, and this name's come up before, but Mark Brunell, for some reason, he's good. He's who comes to mind. But didn't Donovan McNabb go to the?
He did play there for a little bit, yeah. Right after that's where the Eagles traded him.
Yeah, so
they've had good players. When you think
interesting.
Who comes to mind? If you go receiver, running back, who comes to mind?
Clinton Portis.
Okay, that's who I'm going.
Comes to mind.
I'm sure you're probably going to get. I think we're going to have the same receiver too.
Reed. Their tight end.
Jordan, give me a receiver. I don't want Jordan Reed. Jordan Reed could have been really good.
Oh,
because if I'm going tight end,
bro,
that's it. Because if we're going tight end, I'm going Chris Cooley. I'm not going Jordan Reed. Chris Cooley was a problem. He was one of my favorite tight ends of all time. I loved Cooley because he was that throwback. He was like no gloves. I felt like he just throwback. Could have been that H-back, tight end, fullback. Probably could have run the ball some. Chris Cooley, tight end. But yeah, that are my two. Santana Moss and definitely Clinton Portis are the guys. Stephen Davis comes to mind all the time. He's a very underrated, but I think Stephen Davis he had a good amount of time there where he played really well. And he was a very good back for them for a few years. That's where he spent his whole, he had a couple 1,000-yard seasons. He had an MVP season. He was an all-pro, comeback player of the year, a couple Pro Bowls there. So he was there right before Portis. So he was definitely, he's probably 1A when it comes to running backs for Washington in my time, in our era.
Yeah, I mean, Washington has a pretty historic franchise, but just hasn't been. Now, if we had a Commanders fan here or Redskins fan, they would say Dave Snyder has held us back and just continue to be a problem with his leadership and the coaches and whatnot, or what have you. But now that he's out of the way, they're probably, I would say, within 5 years from they're in that real rebuild phase, but
They have
I
some good
also
pieces
believe
around.
Commanders. Yeah, I think they found their quarterback.
It does seem like, and that's number one. And they have the. I feel like in Robinson they have the running back. McLaurin's young enough. I think he's still there. He's got some time left. I think they have a good core. And I think Payne and Allen are both signed for got long-term deals. So they have some pieces to build around. So they're definitely a team that get a couple guys here, a couple guys there in the draft that really hit. They could be a problem. But looking at that, we're diving in all that. End of the day, Thanksgiving Day, come 7:30. What's our prediction? Who are we going with? Are you still going with kind of the, hey, Washington comes in, takes it, steals one in Dallas, or does Big D handle business this week on Turkey Day?
Yep, we handle business very comfortably. I have us winning 31-16.
Okay. I agree with you, and it's almost a very similar score. I'm going 31-17. 34-17. I'm sorry. I think one more field goal. I think 34-17. I do think they have themselves a day. I think it's comfortable. I don't expect to have going into this game in the first half thinking, man, this is too close. It shouldn't be a one-score game this late in the game. I think they handle business pretty well. And, I see that defense again. I really do see that defense probably getting 2 turnovers, 2 takeaways. And you're probably going to get about another 4 to 6 sacks. And I really think they handle it. I think they'll get some garbage time stuff, but I think Dallas handles this game pretty easily as well, which is what we need. That's what we said coming into this stretch after after that Eagles loss. We'd have loved to have seen that be a win. But we said that, this is the easy part of our schedule, and it's the part where we really need to dominate. Because we do have, you're feeling good. You're coming off 2 wins against the Giants and the Panthers. You expect to beat the Commanders. Then you have the Seahawks, which is should be a win. So they have to keep this train rolling. You can't lose one of these next 2 games. And, this is the one I would think I would be a little more worried about just because of the rivalry in the division. But I don't expect it to happen.
And at least not this time around. Yeah, agreed. Not this time around. We'll see how they play us, and if I get nervous for the rematch, because we still have to play them. We have to play them again. But yeah, I think Cowboys Nation, you can comfortably pack up that turkey plate come Thursday, because you won't regurgitate anything throughout the game. That's my prediction.
No, it's going to be a great day, and I can't wait. And we really appreciate you guys for sticking with us and watching or listening to, if you're Spotify listener, Apple Podcast listener. Really appreciate you guys for staying with us, and give us a like on our Facebook, our Insta, and our Twitter, All Cowboys Takeover Podcast, and the YouTube page. Go give a like, go give a subscribe. You could definitely check us out there, and the video on Facebook. We do live stream. This week we are coming a little earlier just because it's Turkey Day, and we're going to be busy. We can't record Wednesday. A lot of family. That's why we're coming a little early this week, and we really appreciate you guys continue listen, like, and support. For Mr. Aaron James and myself, we really you don't know how much it means to us. Just having 2 guys, just you guys care about the opinion, and we like talking Cowboys. We're big fans. We love it. We just enjoy doing this. So again, go give us a like on all the socials, and then follow on YouTube. And we really appreciate you guys. Let's get this win. This is a big game. I think it's very crucial. Can't let this one slip away. Mr. Aaron James and myself, neither one of us think it will. I don't think any of you do as well. I think it's a pretty easy win. So enjoy your Thanksgiving. Don't eat too much. Don't do too much. And if you're too old, don't go out running like we try. Aaron's in a little better shape than me. I'll probably tear an ACL. So enjoy the day. Enjoy the week. God bless. Enjoy. We really appreciate you guys. And we'll be back post-game. We'll do a post-game. Not sure yet. We got to discuss with Mr. Aaron James. I'll discuss. But we'll definitely put it out there and let you guys know. But thank you so much. We really appreciate the listen. Let's go. We'll see you after the game.